Welcome to the Discernment Drop.
Thanks for having me.
I am your host, and if you are listening to this, it means you have likely reached your limit.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, you are tired of having your intelligence insulted by the cultural equivalent of jingling keys in front of a toddler.
Just endless noise.
Right. You are tired of turning on the television and feeling like the showrunner actually holds you in contempt.
Because they often do.
They do. So we are here to create a safe space for dangerous ideas and, frankly, to conduct a spit roast of the modern intellectual void.
I brought the skewers.
Excellent. So today we're asking a question that sounds simple, but the answer is actually quite terrifying. Where did all the adults go?
It is the defining question of our cinematic and literary era. It really is.
You look at the screen today, and what do you see?
You see teenagers saving the multiverse.
Right.
You see 20-somethings having existential crises while wearing spandex.
Which is always a great look.
Oh, very flattering. You see man-children, but the actual adults. The sages.
The mentors.
Right. The people who have lived life, processed it, and actually have something to teach, they have vanished.
It is stark when you actually look for it. I was watching a massive blockbuster recently.
Which one?
Well, I won't name it because I don't want to get sued by a mouse.
Ah, very wise.
But I realized that every single character over the age of 50 was written as one of three things.
Let me guess.
Go ahead.
An incompetent buffoon.
That is one.
A secret villain who betrays the hero.
2 for 2.
Or a pathetic, broken sad sack.
Exactly. Meanwhile, the heroes are narcissists, the mentors are failures, and nobody actually knows anything.
Nobody at all.
And it hit me that this isn't just bad writing. This feels targeted.
It feels targeted because it is targeted.
Right.
But I want to be careful here. It is not necessarily a conspiracy where, 5 guys in a dark room are twisting their mustaches, planning the downfall of civilization.
As fun as that would be to imagine.
It would make a good movie. But it is more subtle than that. It is a philosophical feature, not a bug.
So we are witnessing the systematic dismantling of wisdom as a concept.
Precisely. And to help us dissect this corpse, we are looking at a really fascinating text today.
We are. To lay the groundwork, according to the sermon by Pastor John L. Widdifield, titled, "The Subversion of Wisdom in Modern Media, Why Modern Media Must Parody Wisdom."
It is a phenomenal text.
It is. But let's unpack that title. Pastor John L. Widdifield is not pulling any punches here.
Not at all.
The title alone, Why Modern Media Must Parody Wisdom. That is a very strong claim.
It is.
It implies that they literally cannot help themselves. Like, it is compulsion.
Well, Pastor John argues that we have moved into a cultural moment where wisdom, with a capital W, is no longer viewed as a virtue.
It is viewed as a punchline.
Exactly. The culture has decided that anyone claiming to know the truth is either a liar or a tyrant.
So the only way to portray a wise person is to mock them.
Right. If you portray them earnestly, the modern audience literally rejects it as fake.
So before we get into the heavy philosophy, let's just play this out.
Yeah.
If we really want to align our storytelling with our current cultural values...
Which we apparently do.
Right. If we accept that wisdom is a sham and that only youth and authenticity actually matter, why are we even bothering with the pretense?
What do you mean?
I say we just accelerate the process. Let's stop casting actors like Morgan Freeman or Ian McKellen.
Oh, I see where you're going.
Why pay for gravitas when gravitas is a lie? Let's just replace all movie mentors with TikTok influencers.
It would be more honest, wouldn't it?
It really would.
Imagine Gandalf standing on the bridge of Khazad-dûm.
Yes.
But instead of shouting, "You shall not pass,"
Which is a command from authority.
Exactly. Instead of that, he's doing the renegade dance challenge and telling the Balrog to just live his truth.
Slay, Balrog, slay. Don't let anyone extinguish your flame.
It would save us all a lot of time.
It would. But seriously, our mission today is to take Pastor John's text and use it to dissect the corpse of traditional storytelling.
We need to find out what killed the sage.
And according to the source material, we are going to look at postmodernism, market forces, and this bizarre pathological hatred of hierarchy that seems to have infected every writer's room in Hollywood.
And we have to start with the philosophy, because ideas have consequences.
And bad philosophy eventually ends up on your Netflix queue.
You really cannot escape it.
So let's jump into part 1, the philosophical rot, or, as I like to call it, why truth is suddenly oppressive.
A very fitting subtitle.
Thank you. Now, Pastor John points specifically to postmodernism as the root villain here.
Yes, he does.
Now, we hear that word thrown around constantly. People use it to describe everything from architecture to weird paintings.
It has become a bit of a buzzword.
It has, but break it down for us in this specific context based on the text. Why does postmodernism hate your grandpa?
Well, let's look at the mechanism of it. At its core, Pastor John notes that postmodernism is defined by a deep skepticism toward grand narratives.
Right, and a grand narrative is...
It is a big story that explains everything, like Christianity or the Enlightenment or even just the idea of progress.
the idea that history is moving toward a specific goal.
Exactly. Postmodernism says, no, those big stories aren't actually true. They are just power tricks.
Constructs designed by powerful people to control you.
Precisely. To keep you in your place.
Okay, but playing devil's advocate here for a second, isn't skepticism good?
Of course it is.
Shouldn't we question authority? I mean, if a grand narrative says that, for example, kings are appointed by God and peasants should just shut up and shovel manure.
Which was a very popular narrative for a long time.
Right. Isn't it good to deconstruct that?
Absolutely. Skepticism is healthy. But Pastor John's point is that postmodernism isn't just skepticism.
It goes further.
Much further. It is a denial of the existence of the territory itself. It doesn't just say this map is wrong.
It says there is no such thing as land.
Yes. There is only the drawing of the map. So if you say there is a universal truth, the postmodernist doesn't hear a philosophical claim.
What do they hear?
They hear a political threat. They hear, I am trying to oppress you with my version of reality.
Oh, wow. So if I have a character in a movie, let's say a wise old wizard,
Okay.
and he says, this is the way the world works, and you must follow this path.
Right.
The postmodernist writer looks at that character and sees a dictator.
Exactly. To the modern mind, a claim of truth is really just a power play.
So if you have a character who claims to know the truth, that character is automatically suspect.
They are a tyrant in waiting. According to this framework, the only truth allowed today is the assertion that there is no truth.
Which is, ironically, a truth claim.
It is completely self-refuting.
It is. It is universally true that there are no universal truths. It is the philosophical equivalent of a dog chasing its own tail and thinking it is hunting big game.
That is a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It is self-refuting, but it is very effective at destroying stories.
Because without truth, you cannot have wisdom.
Exactly. Wisdom is, by definition, the application of truth to life. If you remove truth, wisdom just becomes an opinion.
A preference.
All right, like choosing vanilla over chocolate.
I prefer stoicism, you prefer hedonism, let's agree to disagree.
And you cannot build a compelling hero's journey on flavor preference.
No, you really cannot. And that leads right into the second prong of this rot, which Pastor John calls the therapeutic moral framework.
This is a massive shift.
It is the shift from objective morality to emotional validation. And I see this everywhere, not just in movies, but in HR seminars and schools.
It is critical to understand this. In the old world and in old stories, the central question was moral.
Is this action right or wrong?
Exactly. Does it align with the good? But in the modern framework, the question is therapeutic.
Does this make you feel seen?
Yes. Does this validate your identity?
We have literally traded the 10 Commandments for a suggestion box that just says, you're doing great, sweetie.
Essentially, yes. Pastor John points out that modern narratives frame human behavior not as a result of moral agency.
Meaning you actively chose to do evil.
Right. Instead, behavior is framed entirely as a product of environment.
So you aren't a sinner, you are just a victim of your circumstance.
You are. Let's make this concrete. Imagine a movie scene where a character burns down a village.
Okay, classic bad guy stuff.
In a moral framework, let's say a Western from the 1950s, that guy is a villain. The sheriff needs to stop him. The question is, how do we stop the evil?
Right. That is the plot.
But in the therapeutic framework, how does that scene play out?
Well, the modern writer asks, why is he burning the village?
Exactly.
Did he have a traumatic childhood? Was he marginalized by the village elders?
And if he was, then burning down the village is just his way of processing his trauma.
It is an expression of his pain.
So the fire is really just a cry for help.
And if you have a wise elder character step in and say, hey, stop burning down people's houses, that is evil.
That elder is now the villain.
Because they are invalidating the lived experience of the arsonist.
They are gaslighting him about his trauma.
So to be a good person in a modern story, you cannot judge, you can only affirm. Which means the sage is dead. Because a sage who only affirms is not a sage. They are a therapist.
And a bad therapist at that. A good therapist actually challenges you eventually. This is just an enabler.
It is an enabler of destruction. And this is why modern movies feel so soft and weightless.
There are no stakes.
Right, because nobody is actually responsible for their actions. Everyone is just reacting to their past trauma.
But we have to ask where this is coming from. Is it just something in the water?
Well, Pastor John mentions the institutional assembly line. He is talking about creative rating programs, right?
Yes. He argues that there is an institutional mandate in screenwriting workshops and university literature departments.
And having been near those environments, I can tell you he is spot on. Writers are trained that sophistication equals breaking things.
That is the subversion mandate.
I have seen this firsthand. If you write a story where a hero learns a lesson, defeats the bad guy, and upholds a moral virtue...
You get a C-.
Exactly. The professor tells you it is reductive or simplistic or sentimental.
Sentimental is the ultimate kill word in academia. If you display genuine emotion about a virtue, you are sentimental.
But if you write a story where the hero realizes that the bad guy was actually right...
And that morality is a social construct.
Right, and then the hero jumps off a bridge to escape the absurdity of existence.
A+. That is complex.
It is incredible. Complexity has become a code word for confusion.
It has. If the audience leaves the theater thinking, I have no idea what that meant, but I feel sad and vaguely guilty.
The writer thinks they have created high art.
It is snobbery disguised as philosophy. They believe coherence is for simpletons.
If a story makes sense and has a moral, the writer clearly didn't pay enough tuition.
Exactly. Coherence is lowbrow. If it is a chaotic mess of moral relativity, it is highbrow.
And this training creates a pipeline of writers who are literally incapable of writing a sincere Wiseman.
Not because they don't want to, but because they have been trained, like Pavlov's dogs, to believe that sincerity is the enemy of art.
Which brings us perfectly to part 2, the death of the hero. Or specifically, the shift from moral realism to moral relativism.
This is a fascinating part of Pastor John's argument.
He makes a really interesting comparison here between franchises. He compares Star Trek, The Next Generation, and The Wire against shows like Breaking Bad, Narcos, and Succession.
Now, The Wire is usually grouped with those other prestige TV shows.
It is. So why does Pastor John separate it?
This was a huge realization for me when reading the text. Think about The Wire. It is a gritty, dark, violent show about the drug trade in Baltimore.
It is definitely not a happy show.
No, but, and this is the key, it has moral realism.
Explain that distinction for us.
In The Wire, there is a clear sense of right and wrong,
Yeah.
even if the characters fail to live up to it constantly.
Right.
When Omar Little, the stick-up man, testifies in court, he has a code. A man gotta have a code.
The tragedy of The Wire isn't that morality doesn't exist. It is that the institutions fail to uphold the good.
Exactly. But the good still exists as an objective standard against which the characters are judged.
Okay, I see. Captain Picard in Star Trek is just the lighter sci-fi version of that.
He faces difficult dilemmas, but he believes there is a right answer.
He uses reason, ethics, and philosophy to find the objective best outcome.
Right. Now contrast that with Succession.
Oh, well,
In Succession, there is no right and wrong. There's only winning and losing.
it is pure moral relativism.
It is. The characters don't struggle with their conscience because they have completely cauterized it.
The only sin in the Succession universe is weakness.
If you show mercy, you are an idiot.
And we love it. That is the scary part. We devour these shows. Pastor John calls this the anti-hero fetish.
We really do.
But I have to ask, and I am asking for myself here, because I binged Succession just like everyone else.
I used to that.
Why are we so obsessed with characters who are objectively terrible people? Is it just that we like seeing rich people suffer?
Well, Pastor John argues that anti-heroes provide emotional catharsis but leave us with moral ambiguity.
Which is comfortable.
Very comfortable. It connects back to your modest proposal earlier. It is easier to watch a drug dealer or a corrupt CEO because it lowers the bar for us.
That is exactly what I suspect. Think about it. If the hero is Superman, or Captain America, or even Jean-Luc Picard,
You feel a bit inadequate.
I feel bad about myself. They are noble, self-sacrificing, disciplined. I look at them, and then I look at my own life. I didn't go to the gym. I lied to my boss. I was rude to my spouse.
The contrast hurts. A true hero acts as a mirror that shows you your own inadequacy.
Exactly. It convicts you. But if the hero is Walter White, or Tony Soprano...
Suddenly you feel pretty good about yourself.
I mean, sure, I yelled at the guy in traffic, but I didn't dissolve anyone in acid today. I didn't whack a guy for owing me money.
It is spiritual mediocrity. It is the comfort of the gutter.
If everyone is filthy, then I don't need to wash my hands.
Exactly. And this leads to the redefinition of wisdom in these shows. In a relativist world, wisdom isn't a declaration of truth.
What does it become?
It becomes perspective.
Your truth versus my truth.
Precisely. And Pastor John notes that when wisdom is subjective, it ceases to be wisdom.
It just becomes an opinion with a better vocabulary.
You cannot have a sage in a world of my truth. You can only have a pundit.
A pundit with a podcast. Which is a terrifying thought. We have enough of those.
Far too many.
But this leads to the most painful part of the analysis for me. Part 3. Kill the parents.
The destabilization of the elder archetypes.
This is where the rubber really meets the road. Historically, the elder, the sage, the magician, the mentor.
They are the most important figure in the hero's journey.
Gandalf, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Mr. Miyagi, Dumbledore. Their job is specific. To initiate the hero into adulthood.
To say, here are the rules of the world. Here's the discipline you need. You are not ready yet.
They are the gatekeepers of competence.
Yes. And modern media has taken a sledgehammer to these people.
Pastor John brings up the example that hurts the most, the one that essentially broke the internet.
The Last Jedi. Luke Skywalker.
Oh, boy.
The green milk incident. It is the textbook example of this phenomenon. You have an icon of hope, of heroic idealism.
A man who looked at Darth Vader, literally the second most evil man in the galaxy,
and said, I feel the good in you.
That was his entire character, radical hope.
And what does the modern writer do with him?
Turns him into a bitter, self-pitying hermit who drinks green milk from a sea cow and wants the Jedi Order to die.
But Pastor John points out, it wasn't just that he was sad. Heroes can be sad. King David was sad.
Right. Sorrow isn't the issue.
The issue is that the movie went out of its way to show that the old man didn't actually know anything. He was wrong.
That is the key. The new protagonist, Rey, didn't need his training.
Not at all.
She shows up, she is already awesome, she beats him in a fight, essentially, and then she leaves. She just downloads the skills.
It implies that the elder has absolutely nothing to give.
And look at Game of Thrones.
Another great example from the text.
The elders or leaders, Daenerys, Jon Snow, by the end, they are either genocidal maniacs or completely incompetent.
Pastor John argues this reflects a broader cultural distrust of hierarchy. It is the Okai-boomer interaction written into the script.
But why? Why do we hate our cultural dads so much? Is it just teenage rebellion on a societal scale?
It connects back to that theology of inherited wisdom. In a healthy culture, you inherit the estate of your fathers.
Metaphorically speaking, their wisdom, their achievements, their laws.
Right. You stand on their shoulders. But if you hate your fathers, if you view the past as purely racist, sexist, and oppressive,
then you cannot inherit their wisdom.
Exactly. You can't live in the house they built because you believe the foundation is cursed. You have to burn the estate down.
So we have decided that the only pure wisdom comes from a 19-year-old with no life experience.
Because they haven't been corrupted by knowing how the world actually works.
It is the fetishization of youth innocence over adult competence.
It is why you see scenes in movies where the general is an idiot, the CEO is an idiot, the president is an idiot.
And the teenage hacker saves the day with a laptop and a hoodie.
It tells the audience, you don't need to learn anything from your elders. In fact, your elders are the problem. You are perfect, just as you are.
It is incredibly flattering to the ego of a young viewer. You are the Messiah, and your dad is just a clueless relic.
But it is incredibly destructive to their actual development.
If you never realize you are a fool, you can never become wise.
Exactly. You remain a child forever, a child with a smartphone and a massive sense of moral superiority.
Which brings us to the engine room. We have talked about philosophy and theology, but Pastor John argues that this isn't just about ideas, it is about economics.
Part 4. The content sausage factory.
Market forces are incredibly powerful. We have to talk about streaming economics.
Netflix, Disney+, HBO Max, their business model is fundamentally different from the old Hollywood model.
The old model was ticket sales.
Right. I buy a ticket, I sit in the seat. The movie needs to satisfy me enough that I tell my friends to buy a ticket.
It needs a beginning, a middle, and a satisfying end.
But the streaming model is about retention. They need you to stay subscribed month after month.
They don't want you to be satisfied. They want you to be addicted.
If a story resolves, if the hero wins, the evil is defeated, and peace is restored, what do?
You turn off the TV? You might even cancel the subscription.
So they need retention over resolution.
And this creates narratives that can never actually end.
The mystery can never be fully solved. The character can never fully grow up because then the arc is over.
And it creates massive risk aversion. Studios are terrified of new ideas because new ideas might fail.
And failures cause churn, people unsubscribing. So they recycle intellectual property. Star Wars, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings.
We are trapped in an endless loop of nostalgia.
But here's the catch, and Pastor John points this out brilliantly. We are bored.
We have seen Star Wars. We know the story.
So to keep the old stories feeling fresh without actually making something new, they have to twist them.
This is what he calls the meta trap.
Yes. If you make a standard Superman movie today, the critics will call it boring. We know he flies. We know he is good. Yawn.
So to make it feel modern and sophisticated, you have to add a layer of irony. You have to wink at the audience.
Like the Lego Movie or Rick and Morty or Deadpool.
Rick and Morty is the ultimate example of this.
It really is. It is a show about a genius scientist, but he is a nihilist who basically knows he is in a television show.
The show functions by deconstructing the very idea of adventure. Every time they go on an adventure, Rick points out how stupid and derivative it is.
And it makes the viewer feel smart. You're watching it and thinking, I recognize that trope. I know they were making fun of the hero's journey.
I am in on the joke.
It is an intellectual dopamine hit. It makes you feel superior to the story you're watching.
But as Pastor John notes, it hollows out the soul of the story.
It is like eating a cardboard cutout of a steak while someone whispers the chemical formula for protein in your ear.
That is a terrifying analogy.
You feel smart, you recognize the concept of a steak, but you are starving.
You are starving for sincerity. You are starving for a story that actually believes in itself.
But we have become too cool for that.
We are terrified of being cringe, so we coat everything in 5 layers of irony just to be safe.
If I make a movie and I say, this is a sincere story about love, people will laugh at me.
But if I make a movie that says, look at how stupid movie tropes about love are, I get an award for being clever.
And that leads to the crucial distinction Pastor John makes in part 5.
Because some listeners might be thinking, wait, aren't plot twists good? Isn't it good to surprise the audience?
Pastor John distinguishes between legitimate subversion and ideological deconstruction.
This is a vital distinction. Let's use The Empire Strikes Back as an example.
Okay.
When Vader says, I am your father, that is a subversion. We expected Vader to be just a bad guy who killed Luke's dad. The twist flips the whole story upside down.
But, and this is the key, it challenged expectations to reveal a deeper truth.
It made the conflict more personal, more tragic, more meaningful.
It didn't say, the Force is fake and Jedis are stupid. It said, the line between good and evil runs directly through the Skywalker bloodline.
It built upon the foundation. It expanded the house.
Now contrast that with The Rise of Skywalker or the treatment of Luke in The Last Jedi.
That is ideological deconstruction.
It challenges expectations just to poke the audience in the eye. It prioritizes critique over coherence.
It says, you thought Luke was a hero. You were stupid for thinking that. Heroes are a myth.
It is not building anything. It is just dismantling.
It is the difference between a renovation and an arson. A renovation tears down a wall to make the room bigger.
Arson burns the house down because you hate the architect.
Modern storytellers act like vandals in a museum.
They look at the Mona Lisa, which represents tradition, beauty, history, and they think, if I spray paint a mustache on this, I am creating art.
And they pat themselves on the back for it. They say, look, I have deconstructed the myth of the Mona Lisa's beauty. I have challenged the patriarchy that painted her.
And the audience is sitting there saying, no, you just ruined a perfectly good painting.
Pastor John argues that deconstruction is a parasite.
It cannot create. It can only feed on what others have created.
You cannot have a parody of Superman unless someone sincerely created Superman first.
That is a haunting line. Deconstruction is a parasite. It implies that eventually the host dies.
If we stop building cathedrals and just keep pointing out the cracks in the foundation, eventually we are just living in a tent in the rain.
Feeling very smug about our structural analysis.
And that is exactly where we are. We are culturally homeless.
We are living in the ruins of the stories that used to sustain us, trying to warm ourselves by burning the furniture.
So is there a way out? Or are we just doomed to watch Iron Man reboots until the sun explodes?
Well, Part 6 outlines the path forward. Pastor John has a prescription.
And honestly, it sounds impossible given the current climate.
It sounds radical because it is so old. He says we must reclaim sincerity.
We must value tradition, respect hierarchy, and affirm objective truth.
Oh boy. Respect hierarchy and affirm objective truth.
If you said that in a pitch meeting at Netflix today, Security would escort you out. You would be canceled before you reached the parking lot.
You absolutely would. Sincerity is cringe to the modern mind.
To stand up and say, I believe in truth, goodness, and beauty, and I am not joking, is terrifying. It opens you up to mockery.
But maybe that is the point. Maybe cringe is just the feeling of a cynical soul encountering genuine conviction.
It burns a little bit, like putting alcohol on a cut.
It exposes our own lack of belief. But Pastor John also puts the responsibility on the audience.
We have a role in this.
We have to stop settling for endless parody. We have to stop applauding when a movie tells us that our mentors were liars and our history is garbage.
We need to be discernment snobs.
They do. We need to demand stories that offer meaningful guidance, not just endless vague complexity.
And we need to support the creators who are brave enough to be sincere, who are brave enough to write a wise character who isn't a secret villain.
And we need to be those people in our own lives. We need to be adults.
If the screen won't show us what an adult looks like, we have to model it ourselves.
Exactly.
So as we wrap this up, let's look at the final Swift-Gin roast of the situation. We are drowning in content.
We have more hours of television available to us than any human could watch in 1,000 lifetimes.
We have access to every movie ever made on our phones, and yet we are starving for wisdom.
We are feasting on irony and starving for truth.
We are entertained, but we are not edified. We are distracted, but we are not comforted.
And here is the provocative thought to leave you with, based on Pastor John's emphasis on these elder archetypes.
If we succeed, and we are very close to succeeding, in tearing down every father figure, every sage, every mentor in our stories,
if we prove that they are all frauds, that Gandalf is a lie and Dumbledore is a manipulator,
who will be left to explain to us why we are so miserable?
that is the question. When the sorrow comes, and it always comes, irony will not comfort you.
TikTok will not comfort you.
Parody will not hold your hand. You will look for a sage, and you will find only a mirror.
And if that mirror just reflects your own confusion back at you, that is a terrifying place to be.
It is the ultimate dead end.
Listeners, thank you for joining us on this edition of the Discernment Drop. Keep your discernment sharp, or you will cut yourself on the irony.
Until next time.